Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of The Family Table. Today we'll be making fried bakes. This is a fried dough or fried bread, whichever you want to call it. It's very popularly eaten in the Caribbean, especially with saltfish, mackerel, corned beef, and you can have it with a wide range of things. Depending on the island in which you're from, they might have a few different names. I know in Montserrat we call them muffins. Some places call them Johnny cakes or Johnny bakes. It's very similar to the Jamaican fried dumpling, but they're just not like a ball, like a shaped in a ball. They're more flat and round, which I will show you in this video. But before we get started, I need you guys to subscribe to this channel. Click the thumbs up on this button, and at the end of the video, make sure you comment and let me know what you think. Now, let's begin. Okay, now guys, so for today's recipe, we're going to need 5.5 cups of plain flour, but you can also use all-purpose flour, just depending on where you are. You need 1 tablespoon of butter or margarine, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 packet of yeast. These tend to normally have in about a tablespoon or 7 grams. You will need water for mixing, but the amount of water in which you use will depend on the brand of flour and the climate in which you're in. And we're also going to need oil for frying, because these are deep fried. So you'll probably need like a neutral kind of oil that's neutral in flavor, so it's maybe a sunflower or a vegetable oil. And that's everything, and I'll show you how we mix. Okay, so to start off with, I'll just add the butter or margarine, and I'm just going to work that into the flour. So you just want to make sure that this is mixed in properly into the flour. And I'm using the quick active yeast, so there's no need to basically put in water and try to activate. So I like to make things very easy and simple. So after we've worked the butter into the flour, we're just gonna add everything else in. So I'm just gonna add the salt, the baking powder, the sugar, and I'm just gonna add the yeast, the 1 packet of yeast. I just normally throw it on top of the sugar. Yeast normally needs sugar to help it to grow, which ideally everything's going to be incorporated into it, but just normally just throw it on the sugar. I try to avoid throwing the yeast on the salt, because normally salt tends to kill the yeast, so we don't want anything which will disturb the rising process of this. So now that everything's been mixed in, we're just going to add some water gradually, and we're going to mix this into a dough. So it's kind of like a bread dough consistency you're looking for. So we're just going to add a bit of water, and don't be afraid to get your hands in this and get it dirty. If I do know some people do not like mixing flour by hand, so you can always use a spoon for this just to start off, and then in the final stage when you just need to bring everything together, you can just put your hands in it and get it all dirty. But this is the best part of cooking, it's just getting down and dirty. Can't be afraid to get in there and just mix everything in. Okay, so we're just gonna add the water gradually and mix this in until it forms a dough. Okay, so I've added enough water so that I'm able to form this into a large dough ball. So you can see that is like if you're mixing bread. except it does not involve the long kneading process. You can see that it is very soft, but it is not very sticky to the point where if you're holding it that it leaves a lot of flour on your hands. So as you can see, my hands are coming out relatively clean. So just put it back in the bowl, give it one last good mix or knead. Okay. And I'll just flatten it out a bit. And I'm just going to cover this and I leave it for a minimum of 30 minutes. So you can mix this, let it set for 30 minutes to an hour. Just allow the yeast and the baking powder have time to activate and start to give it time to rise. Unlike bread, it doesn't need to fully double in size, but you can leave it to double in size if you want to. You just want to give it time for that yeast to work and to start who. And then after I let it sit, I'll show you what we do next, okay? Okay, so now it has been 30 minutes that I've allowed this to rest. And you can tell just by looking at it that the yeast has had time to activate and it's slightly risen. So we can just like bread, just punch that out and just give it one good mix. Just take everything off the sides. So now we are going to form these into the round bakes, which is the traditional shape. Okay, so it's been 30 minutes. I've let this rest. It gave the yeast time to activate, so I've just given this one good knead. So now we're going to make them into the traditional round shapes in which we see bakes in. So we'll need a knife for cutting the dough, the excess flour in which I said, and a rolling pin. And you want to make sure that your counter is very clean, or you at least have something in which you can rest the bakes on. So normally I would just dust the counter space. So this is just so when we've placed the bakes down that they do not stick. And I'll dust the rolling pin. So I'm just going to apply a bit of flour. Now you can weigh this and cut them into smaller pieces to help if you want to have equal size. But you shouldn't have to think too much into that. So you just want to cut off a small piece of dough and we're going to just form this into a ball. So you're just pulling in the sides and just pressing it into the middle. And it looks something like this. And now you just want to place it in the flour. You just gently pat it down. And then you use the rolling pin and you just roll it out. You just want to move the dough around a bit. So you can roll them out as thickly or as thin you want them. So I'm just going to roll them out to about an inch thick. And then I just place that there and it'll allow the dough to rest again. So let's do this again. You just want to cut a bit of flour. And then we're pulling from the outside and just putting it into the middle just to form a round dough ball. You go, pull the edges into the middle. And then that's it. Sometimes what I do, I hold my hands like this with the V, and then I just push in the middle, same time squeezing in, so I get a nice round ball. And here we go. And now once again, in the flour, you want to keep that rolling pin dusted, and we just press gently down on that dough, and then now we roll. You do not want to have too much flour on it, because obviously when you're frying, or if you have a lot of flour, you're going to need to dust that off, because when frying it will become, the flour will burn, it'll become, so you don't want it to brown too quickly when you're frying. So I'll just show you guys one last time how to do this. So yes, you want to put this in the palm of your hands, and then we're pulling from the outside in. Yes. So from the outside in, you know, we do have a bit of technical difficulties. But yes. From the outside in. And here you go. So you can just pick up. The more you make these, the faster you become and the more comfortable you be. So, and then there we go. Form into a lovely ball. Just gently, and we roll. Okay, so I'm just going to finish rolling out the rest of these, and then I'll show you guys what we do next. Okay, so I finished rolling out all of the bakes. The mixtures basically got me about 18, but you can get more depending on how big or how small you want them. They're about 1 centimeter to 1.5 in thickness. The thinner you roll them out, the more airy they'll be in the middle, so they'll have less in them. So it's just about preference to how thick or how thin you like them. So now what we're going to do is you want to get something to fry them in. So now we're going to add some oil to a pan. So we're going to be using this frying pan, and you want to have enough oil to be able to deep fry them. Okay, so that's about a few cups of oil. So we're going to allow this to heat up, and then I'll show you the process in when we start to fry them when the oil gets hot. Okay, so now we want to make sure that the oil is hot before we place the bakes into them to fry. So I normally use a skewer and just place the back into the center of the pan, and I just press it down, and then if it's hot it starts to bubble, and I can see how the bubbles are forming, so I can tell that this is hot. So we want to go in order of how we've rolled out the bake. So the one that you rolled out first, you place that first into the pan. But we do not want to overcrowd the pan, so we start by putting one in at a time. So we're just going to start one at a time and place into the oil. And I'll tell you why we do this, because when the bake hits the hot oil, it starts to float up, and it can, in the center, it is still a bit sunken in the center. So you need to take something, so either a spoon, a spatula, whatever you're frying with, and you're just gonna use it to just pour some of that hot oil over the top, so So the steam from the center will help to lift up the center of the bake. Because a lot of people, sometimes you might see that they're frying bakes and then in the middle is just, it's just sunken in the middle. It doesn't rise. So what we need to do is just to scoop the hot oil over the top to help bring it up. And now you can see how this is basically floated up. You can see that it's not sunken in the middle. So then we're just going to flip it over and just do the same. We're just going to throw that hot oil over it. And once it has fully expanded, then is when you will add the second one, and we'll just allow this one to cook until it's golden brown. And then you'll just repeat the process for the second one, and then again. So you're just adding them one at a time because you do not want to overcrowd the pan. And then we just scoop in that hot oil over the bakes again, just so we can bring the well out from the center of the dough. Because nothing sucks more than having a bake that is sunken in the middle, where all the oil is just rested right there and it's a bit oily. So to keep it from doing that, we're just gonna scoop that hot oil over it and then just allow it to expand. I know this can seem a bit time consuming, but trust me, it is worth it. Okay, so I'm just continue. Okay, and then we flip again. And you just continue to just scoop that oil over. And don't forget about the one in which you place first. And then you just repeat this process and fry them until they are cooked all the way through, and until they are also golden brown or dark brown, depending on preference. Because I know some people would prefer a bake to be a bit more light and golden in color. Some might prefer it to be a very darker brown. Okay, so now these are golden brown, so I'm just gonna take these out. So you'd want to get something, so I'm using a strainer or colander. I'm just gonna rest these in just to allow any excess oil to drain off of the bakes, because you don't want them to be too oily. We're already deep frying them, so if we can avoid the excess oil, even better. So now I'm going to show you another method. So I'm going to place the bake into the hot oil. And now you've seen that it's frying and it's rising to the top. So you can use the press down method, so where you just gently continue to just press it down into the hot oil. So this will also help to remove it, stop it from getting the well in the center. So you're just going to gently just continue to press it down into the hot oil. And you can see, just if you have a look, it is rising. So now it won't have that well in the center. So you can either do the scooping method, where you're scooping the hot oil over the bake, or you can just gently just press it down into the hot oil. Just prevent it from getting that. So if you have a look, you can see there's no well in the center. So we're just gently just pressing it back down into the hot oil. And then we can just turn it over. And then allow it to fry until it's golden brown. And that's done right there. So what I'm about to do, I'm just going to fry off all the rest of the bakes. And then I'll let you guys have a look at the finished product. Okay, so now we've finished frying the bakes. So as you can see them now, they're nice and golden brown. You see they're very soft. Okay, so what you want to do when you're frying them is to make sure that your fire is at a low to medium. So, because if it's high, they will brown a lot quicker before they're completely cooked all the way through. And then you can end up having them burnt or bakes which are completely, well, extremely dark, unless you like that. But yes, so this is the end result. So I do hope you guys try this recipe and let me know what you think. So please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, you like this video, you share it, and also comment and let me know what you think and what else you'd like to see me make. Look at my bakes! Look at my bakes! What do you think? Looking all beautiful, 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 beautiful. Brown and round. Brown and round. Look at my bakes. What do you think? Look at my bakes.